and welcome to Lawwiser. I'm so excited that you all could be part of this discussion today. So we are running a campaign called Women Law Dialogues, which is powered by Indus Law. And I'm actually super excited to introduce our co-hosts for the discussion today, which is Revati and Sushmita. Very quick introduction to both of them before I hand it over to them, and they're going to lead the session today. So Revati is the partner at Indus Law's Mumbai office. She has an experience of over 12 years, her core practice being M&A and PE investments. She has advised several foreign investors and Indian promoters in their cross-border investments, corporate restructuring, and general corporate commercial work. She also advises clients with employment-related compliances, including sexual harassment proceedings, senior management contracts, and confidentiality agreements. So, hi Revati, very warm welcome, and quick introduction to Sushmita as well. So, Sushmita is also a partner at Indus Law, and she's currently based in the Mumbai office as well. Sushmita has 14 years of experience advising clients on a variety of commercial disputes across sectors, including banking and finance, insolvency, and restructuring related matters, and arbitration related to construction contracts. She has advised lenders, borrowers, advisors, and other intermediaries in complex local and cross-border financing transactions across major debt financing disciplines. So welcome both of you, and I'm going to hand it over to you to talk to our fantastic panelists.
That was like super duper introduction. I've not heard so much about myself in so many years, I think, but thank you very much. Hi everyone, welcome to this panel. So I think we'll run through a quick introduction of the panelists today. We have with us Shefali Sham. She's a general counsel of Arvind Fashions Limited, which is one of India's leading fashion retail company with over 27 global brands, such as Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Sephora, US Polo, amongst others, under its wing. Shefali is a National Law School Bangalore alumni and has had an illustrious career spanning over 25 years, with 16 years at Arvind Group, where she has spearheaded several challenging transactions and cases. Welcome, Shefali.
Thank you. That was very sweet. Thanks.
Hi, Janvi. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce Janvi, who is a partner North Region Legal at Decathlon Sports India. She leads the end-to-end legal support for the business expansion in North India. She's a seasoned counsel with over a decade of experience in litigation, transactions, and alternate dispute resolution in multiple industries. In parallel, Janvi has also had an entrepreneurial journey spanning management consulting, strategy on business processes and profitability, and she has single-handedly set up her own firm advising clients on various litigation matters. Janvi, thank you once again for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you very much, Revati. It's a pleasure to be on board.
Welcome, Janvi. And now we have our male counterpart in this women inclusive inclusivity discussion. Welcome, Devji. Devji is the legal head of Mahindra Sustain, a group company of Mahindra & Mahindra. Mahindra Sustain is a leading entity in solar renewable energy sector. Devjit has been part of the corporate legal team of Mahindra & Mahindra since 2008. And now deputed as the legal head of Mahindra Sustain since 2018. In his career spanning over 13 years, Devjit has been part of several cross-border M&As, transactions, and disputes. Welcome, Devjit.
Thank you, Sushmita. I would like to borrow your words. It's been long since I've heard so many good things. Thank you. Pleasure to be on.
Well,
thank you.
So, I think we are today we've all gathered here to talk about gender inclusivity.
So this month, it's an Indus Law initiative along with Lawwiser, where we are celebrating our women leaders in the legal space, their achievements, and also, of course, discussing their challenges. And as a part of this panel, we were really hoping to have engaging conversations around gender diversity, inclusiveness, inspiration, and also briefly discuss each of our panelists' individual journey and their personal experiences. So I'd like to begin this session with my first question to a very special male colleague who is Mr. Devjit, who has graciously joined this all-women panel. So Devjit, many of us in this profession have always had, role models who we look up to for inspiration and guidance. And for me personally, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or RBG as she's popularly known, has really walked the talk, right? And showed us the path in what it is to break the glass ceiling. Serving as a US Supreme Court judge for about over 17 years until her passing, she has spent much of her legal career advocating for gender equality and women's rights. And one thing that I always, sort of fondly remember, one thing that she said is, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. So in your experience, can you tell us about one woman who you have really looked up to and learned a lot from personally and professionally?
Thank you, Revati, for the question. So Revati, for me, it's been a journey which has been around women colleagues, and I did briefly. I would say, so let me put it in a different way. I started my career with Mahindra, as Sushmita said, and frankly, I was the only male member in my entire corporate legal team. Without naming a woman, I would maybe, if I'm allowed to, would like to kind of pinpoint the struggle and the way the women in my department at that point in time, now we're a department of 55 people. Again, the diversity is better with the women in the team even today. But I would think that women in my team at that point in time, I could see I was a real law graduate, very, very naive at that point in time. I could see the struggle in their lives, juggling between the household chores and also managing the office at the same time. While it is very difficult, or rather, while it is very easy for us as men to kind of just get into the office, work and get back, I could see a lady sitting right across my desk who used to juggle between her mobile phone and the landline. So she used to be on conference calls with her colleagues, and at the same time, her 3-year-old child would call to ask her questions, which for that child at that point in time was very important to get an answer at that very moment. So she used to say, "Can I just put your call on mute?" And she would immediately switch to a mother mode and would respond to her very, very, I would say, a very childish question of her 3-year-old daughter. So that really gave me the understanding that how difficult it is for somebody to juggle between jobs, and frankly, it is all about multitasking. So that is one thing I learned from that lady. There was another lady who used to come in, and it's all about prioritizing in your life. How do you prioritize stuff? So there was a lady who used to come, and our office times, as all of us do, it's between 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever it is. She used to ensure that she enters office at around 7:30 because she has to leave at 4:30 to pick her daughter up from school on her way back home. So this is all about prioritizing. So frankly, there have been many women like these in my career who have taught me small things which I today cherish a lot and use them as a kind of a lesson for myself, for me to use throughout my life. I think I would like to sum it up that way, rather than getting into one woman who really admired me. I think all of the women in my workplace, the way they kind of handle between their household and the office, admire me in each of their jobs. I must tell you that. Thank you.
Thanks, Devdi. That's actually, absolutely true, because I think the panelists here that we have today, pretty much all of us are sort of, switching between mode 1 to mode 2 to mode 3. So it's wonderful to hear that, our fellow male colleagues actually recognize that, accept that, and, appreciate that. So it's wonderful to
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Devjit. I think we all kind of relate to what you said. Shefali, I want to ask you now that, Desmond Tutu, South African cleric and theologian once said, it is by standing up for the rights of girls and women that we truly measure up as men. How do you think men can be more important allies of women at workplaces? What is your take on this?
I think the most important thing is what Devjit said. If a man is willing to recognize that a woman plays multiple roles, So whilst she is sitting there in her role as, say, for me, say as a general counsel, and I'm, negotiating a particular contract, we're bringing in a new brand into India, like we did with Sephora, for example. And at the same time, I have a child who is, at that time, I think my son would have been about 10 years old. And he would also make unexpected phone calls and have unexpected and sometimes unrealistic expectations from his mother. But, when I was able to focus on him, sometimes at the cost of having to put on hold the negotiations that are going on, and when I have had men respecting that and acknowledging that, I think that made all the difference. So for me, at Arvind, for example, the managing director who was there in Arvind for about 15 years now, and I've been in Arvind for 16 years, so most of my career, he was somebody who completely recognized a woman's role as a mother first, and as in the corporate world as second. So if a man supports a woman, I think it makes it that much easier. Though honestly, even without that support, we do just fine.
I totally agree with you on this, Shefali. So I think what Desmond Tutu said is probably it signifies a time when women required recognition and support from men. But today is a different era altogether, where I think both men and women coexist at workplace and are working to secure their aspirations. In fact, I am part of a team where currently there are 7 men and 4 women. A few months back, we were 6 women and 4 men. And there was a time when I was the only woman dispute lawyer in the team. But all the men in my team, starting from my co-partner to my junior most associate, have never treated any of us differently just because of our gender. And that's what has been kept all of us going strong for so many years. So I think, and taking what you said, I think it's the man's inner strength to accept that a woman is at par or even better is what probably would make them important allies of women at workplace or even outside. And at the end of the day, I think both men and women have to be allies of each other and be able to accept that life is much simpler without any gender bias.
Absolutely. And I think, if we lay down our expectations clearly, it makes life that much simpler.
Yeah,
so definitely.
It's true.
Absolutely true. And just to sort of follow on to what Sushmita is saying, over the last 11 years, having had a career in law firms, one thing that you notice is that in your younger days, you always see lot of women associates, and as you go further up the ladder, be it whether social pressures or be it other professional pressures, unfortunately you see a dip, right? It becomes slightly disproportionate to what you saw in your younger days. But having said that, I don't think women at any point have been have lost out on opportunities purely because on their gender, because I think in the legal sector, largely as long as you're able to prove your merit, your drive, your commitment and hard work, gender really has not been has not played truant there. So Janvi, my next question is to you. You have donned many hats before Decathlon, including your entrepreneurial journey, and we have offline sort of discussed the challenges you faced while setting up your own law firm as a woman. But having said that, do you think that is a thing of the past? Because today we see more and more women in the boardroom, and we also see women actively taking a role when it comes to stakeholder management or key decision-making policies in companies. What's your take on that?
So, Revati, I'll start from the fact that when I was actually running my own law firm, a lot of times the clients would just wait to see my senior walk in. And I had to actually tell them that I am the senior. I am the one you are here to meet, or I am the one who's going to entertain you, or I am the one who's going to represent you in the courts. That, I think, was something which at that point in time became a setback in my head. But I think eventually, when they see that you are persistent and you're always there and you're no less than any of your male counterparts. In fact, for that matter, sometimes you're way more aggressive in the courtrooms than your male counterparts. I think they start to bestow that trust on you. I moved on to being an in-house counsel eventually. I was in a sector wherein I saw very less women, being part of boardrooms, and though our legal team definitely was all girls, as we can say it. The diversity-wise, you're like 90% of women and 10% of boys. But yes, when it comes to that boardroom and holding a position wherein you're taking decisions, I think it was not there at that point in time. But I think it's a passage of time. People are realizing. And today, when we see, we just have one, as Devjit was saying, that he was the only one in his team. We have only one boy in our team. And the organization that I am in today, a very young organization. So what I see is that the new generation is coming and they are bringing a lot of changes in this. And as the time is passing by, there are more and more women who are becoming part of that decision-making committee, or probably they're sitting in power. Though definitely if I see the brighter side, as we have Shefali here, there are so many women, as you, Revati and Sushmita, we see that so many women are today leading, But at the same time, as you know, Revati, we were discussing that we are privileged. If we are here today, we are privileged. There is still that sector of women who do not have what we have. They're still struggling to make a mark. So definitely, I feel that the change has started. We are moving in the right direction. But when it goes to tier 2 cities or the grassroots level, the change is yet to happen. And we cannot turn our blind eyes towards that.
Completely agree with you there, Janvi. I think you brought up a very, very interesting and valid point, because while we have equal opportunity for women probably in cities and large organizations where this is a fundamental concept, the situation unfortunately is not the same for women across India, right, or any other developing nation for that matter. And yeah, I think with people like Devjit around who really recognize the value, the contribution, and the kind of multiple hats that we as women play, there is great hope for our future generations.
I mean, to take this forward, I mean, I have done litigation most of my career, and you're right. As in, in urban cities, it's way easier for all of us, and probably we are all privileged, and we get to see this kind of and talk about inclusivity and equality. But I have visited a lot of tier 2, tier 3 cities in courts in those cities, and sometimes I walked into courts where there is no woman, and I have walked in from an urban city into a tier 1, a tier 2, or tier 3 city, and people actually stare at you sometimes. I mean, they don't know, they feel somebody has just dropped in from somewhere. But I think that is changing, because I see a lot of young boys in my team, and they are all for women rights, let me tell you. I mean, I don't think even the women are for their rights, but they are all for women rights. So I think that's a very, very welcome change. So on this note, Shefali, I have a question for you. So you have both men and women in your team. And given the pandemic and the new normal of work from home culture, how differently have men and women reacted to this work from
home? So Sushmita, on the work from home bit, I think we're all quite clear that typically a woman's role is, more time consuming than a man's if she's at home. And no matter, how senior we are, or how old our kids are, or, how sensible our husbands are, the fact remains that, when it's lunchtime, it's like, okay, what's for lunch? Irrespective of whatever I may be doing, I am expected to go and at least figure out what's for lunch, if not serve it. So to that extent, of course, I think work from home possibly has benefited men more, because we're just doing both our jobs from one place. But what I enjoy about work from home, and what I think some of the other women in my team enjoy, is the fact that we're not sitting in traffic, and adding that to our daily routine. So you have some time to do some self do things that are good for your own mental health, your own me time, whether it's your yoga or meditation or going for a walk or playing with the dog, whatever. But you have those opportunities, which earlier we were just rushing, rushing from home to office and all of that. So I think to that extent, work from home has helped irrespective of gender, maybe a little bit more for women because we get our me time to some extent.
Absolutely. On this note, Shefali, I wanted to ask this question to you at the very beginning, because you are probably, you've seen this field for like 25 years now. How did you handle your career with work-life balance, and what did you do so differently that you've been able to balance, if at all you've been able to balance? That is the question.
Sure. In fact, this is something that is important, and I am keen for this message to go across to other women working professionals, especially lawyers, because what happens with someone like me, 1996 batch of National Law School, there are certain given expectations. You don't pass out of law school and then say, oh, I'm not going to work, for example. And I was married really young. So I was married before I even passed out of law school, which was an unusual thing. But I guess it was okay in 1996. So I started my career with Dua Associates and I was there for 3 years. But I realized that when you're in a law firm, you have, first of all, zero work-life balance, because you just, and it's literally a competition as to who's working longer. Not necessarily who's working more efficiently or more effectively, but who's in office till the boss checks out and sees that, acha, this person is still here and it's 11 o'clock or it's 10:30. And I'm like, what nonsense, So I think 3 years of Dua Associates, and then I kind of started on my own, something like Janvi, except instead of setting up a law firm, I started a little consultancy of my own. And I would go office to office, because those days, I guess, work from home wasn't so popular, and provide services to various companies, Arvind being one of them, Industry Clothing. Then there was this company called Oyster Bay, Indigene, Biocon. A lot of startups were happening in Bangalore at that time, 99, 2000. So I did all of that. And then I got sucked into Arvind because that became, it grew larger and larger. When I started with a 250 crore company, and now it's about 4,000 plus crores. So I got pulled into Arvind and having to spend more and more time in Arvind, as a result of which I gave up the smaller retainers. But the good thing is that even with Arvind, I was able to, agree upon a retainer sort of system. So I did not become a full-time employee. I did not really have to maintain any specific 9 to 6 hours. I was able to negotiate in such a way that I could prioritize my child. And I have only one son. He's now 19, but at that point of time, he was 3. When I started, and I was able to do all of those things. And I think as women, if we ask for it, we will get it. The point is, usually we don't even ask. We just assume that this is not going to work. Like for me, I would have thought that it's such a large company. Why would they possibly agree, even today, to have a general counsel who's allowed to do other stuff, who's okay with doing other work or having other clients? A company of this size would very possibly say, listen, I want a full-time GC. So the way it's worked is to give that commitment that, yes, I am there full-time, in the sense I'm there for you 24/7 to respond to all your needs in a timely fashion, to be mentally all there for you. But don't expect me to physically be seated in your office 24/7 or give more priority to work than my child and things like that. And I think this is something all of us can do. We just need to ask it. And now the way gender diversity is being given importance now, I think it's definitely doable, even with the large companies, like a Decathlon in Janvi's case.
I think, Revati and I were having an offline chat on work-life balance, and I told her, I don't know what is work-life balance. I have not been able to figure out that balance at all. So you're right. It was just opposite for me. I started with a company and I joined a law firm, gave up that little luxurious life probably here, and now I'm sitting here, and law firm work can get really difficult sometimes. But yeah, I think work-life balance is important, and I think more and more youngsters are actually trying to follow that. I see even the freshers trying to follow work-life balance, which is probably a very good thing actually. So on this note, Devjit, I have a question for you now. We have transformed from an era of male dominance as GCs, legal heads, law firm partners, men counsels, to more and more of women GCs, legal heads, partners and counsels. What do you think has led to this change?
Sure. I think it's a very important question. I'll be happy to answer this. In my perspective, see, we all agree it's in India, or rather it's around the world, the same thing. It's a very patriarchal society. Back then, it was very difficult for men to take instructions from women, and that too at a GC level where you're advising how to run a company. So you are supposed to be the person sitting on the right side of the MD or the CEO and the person to go to when there is a problem. So I think there has been a perception change. People have started to accept that it is not about a man and a woman. It is all about merits and competence. It is not about which gender I'm taking that instruction from, frankly. The environment has become way more acceptable, in my opinion. So I think what I mean to say here is what all of us as men accept is respecting that a woman is as competent as us, and sometimes, in fact, more competent than all of us in this fraternity, in this legal fraternity more so, and for any walks in life that they kind of work in. So for me, I think it has been a paradigm shift when it comes to GCs, and I see, frankly, that there are far more women GCs, I must say, as compared to men GCs in this world. And I think those companies which have women GCs are performing better than people in boss GC. I don't know, he will take it otherwise. Shefali would know, Naveen Raju is my boss to say that.
Yes, so very well.
Yes. So I have been fortunate enough to actually work under two women GCs before Naveen joined in, Usha Amonkar and Nirmala Gill. And frankly, it has been wonderful. Every buddy has changed in their perception about having a woman as a GC in the company. So I think it is all about accepting that, yes, women can do much better than men in this field as well. Thank you.
This is such a welcome thought, because otherwise generally people think women bosses are very cranky and they can take you to task. But this is really a welcome thought, and it's actually worthy to mention that in fact, there is a substantial increase in the number of women lawyers in courts, and I go to courts every day, and there are so many women, young women lawyers, and even at Indus Law, I must tell you that interestingly, most of the applicants that we have seen in recent times for recruitments are mostly women, and that's, I think, a very, very positive sign. And we see more of women coming up in law. In the olden days, people would not encourage women to do law and practice law, but I think that's changing, and that's a very, very welcome change.
Sushmita, just to add to what you said, I think just to add to what you said, I think it's long overdue from the company side as well. It's not about just men. I think the companies have also started to recognize the fact that they need to go a step ahead in having women employees. It is about their extra mile that they need to take. In our company, like if she's a mother who is a new mother, so to speak, she's allowed to leave office maybe 3-4 hours early. If she's an expecting mother, then for the entire period, she is allowed to take a cab home at the expense of the company. So I think these are the measures which have kind of made a lot of difference to invite women to take that place. And frankly, it is much more overwhelming and encouraging as the days gone by.
No, you actually hit the nail on the head. I completely agree with what you just said, because you're absolutely right. Back in the day, it was difficult for men or as a community to take instructions from women, but that's truly a thing of the past, because today, just from the legal sector, right, law is actually a preferred profession for women these days, as much as it was for just men back in the day, right? It was an exclusive men's club, which has really changed, and largely this is because of the sole fact that large corporates and even smaller litigation firms, all of them really recognize the fact that women do have multiple roles to play, and unless you give them that support and impetus really to grow, it's really not possible for them to overcome these hurdles, right? And so today I think while opportunities are the same for men and women, and I think the corporate race or the track is also the same, and the conditions of this race track also largely remain the same. The only difference is that for women and men, the hurdles or the obstacles in between are very different. So Correct. It could either be societal pressures of marriage, of maternity, or it could be, even something as small as an inherent bias of, how women do versus how men could perform a certain task, right? And at Indus Law, at least, we can safely say, we have so many women partners, and right from be it opportunities to, responsibilities, to the kind of clients that you handle, or even pay scales for that matter, honestly, your gender doesn't at all make a difference. As long as, I think the fundamental thing is, as long as you have merit and, you're able to show your commitment and drive towards what you're doing, then, generally, I think there is no, hurdles to really stop you from your career growth. And, on that note, I'm just going to throw a question open to Janvi and Shefali, right? So all of this, while most companies are talking about gender diversity, they have certain policies to have more women, right, from senior management to junior. All of them also talk about, policies, really gender inclusive policies, which will help women in their growth. And, I'd like for both of you to sort of share your thoughts on your respective companies and the kind of culture and workplace policies that you have to make it a more gender inclusive environment.
Absolutely. As I said earlier, we are a very young organization, I would say. And I think we don't use the word gender diversity or any related term for that matter. We use the term human in the company. Treat a human with the respect a human deserves. We don't treat each other with any kind of a male or a female thing. So it's just that there is no bifurcation altogether. We are humans. We are all working together. Since I've joined, I've not seen any case wherein there has been any kind of an allegation. It's been almost 2.5 years now. I've not heard any of the allegations flying here or there, on any of our male counterparts. We're all friends, we travel together. When it comes to the issue that I raised on tier 2 cities and all, as Sushmita was saying earlier, that, she goes to courts and she sees that, there are very less women. So Sushmita, I have also been to courts in tier 2, tier 3 cities and very remote areas. Yes, what you told is absolutely right. I think at that grassroots level, the change might take a little bit of time in the courtrooms. But what we are doing today is, when we open a store, now we are penetrating into the tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. The mandate to our stores is to hire 50% or more than 50% women. It is their KPI. They have to hire. They have to include women. And they support women in any and every way possible to ensure that they can come to work. So we see the difficulties these girls face. We see, how the store is struggling to provide facilities, but we're trying to make a difference there. So yeah, there is no gender diversity per se. That is definitely a mandate, but it is more of human and a very human approach to the entire issue.
So, I think what you said was absolutely right, Janvi. And the fact of the matter is that, we have a lot of women in our stores as well. And it's critical. It's critical to us that, that we look after our women staff properly. We have had cases, where we have had, I won't say harassment, but, certain situations which were avoidable. But as a company, I think we're really, really focused and particular about the manner in which women are treated. Women are given a lot of importance. They're critical in stores for sure. And at the corporate level also, for the fashion designing teams and all that, we have a lot of women. And I think there is a complete focus on including women. There is women on the board of the company. And I think there is adequate importance being given to this now.
Thank you, Janvi, and thank you, Shefali. So I think, we all kind of agree that it is probably it's a man's inner strength and their acceptability of a situation. But I personally feel that we should not come to a situation where a man needs to accept something, and that's how the gender equality happens, or that's when the gender equality should happen. It should be a normal course in every human being to accept each other, irrespective of a man or woman. So I don't know. I mean, we talk about gender inclusivity, we talk about, equality. And because we talk of it is why we, kind of come to a conclusion that there is a difference. I mean, that difference should not come from the very start. I mean, when children are born, I think that's when they should know that there is no difference and there is equality, and it should be a self-realization at the end of the day and not something which should be inculcated. So probably we are at a time when it needs to be inculcated, and I think there will be a time when it will just happen normally. It's going to be right there inside their heart and mind, I think.
So thank you, Shefali and Janvi. And I think to sum up what the three of you have constantly said and echoed during this conversation is that it's not just about women's right. It's really about equality of the two genders. And honestly, that I think starts with just recognizing the fact that the skills, the merit, the responsibility, the capabilities and skill sets that an individual has cannot really just be determined on the basis of one's gender. And I think it's about time that we really need to break these stereotypical patterns and these limiting beliefs that society has imposed on what we as women can do. And I think, no other person other than RBG has said it really well. In her own words, she says, I don't say it's women's rights. I say the constitutional principle of the equal citizenship stature of men and women.
Just to add to Revathi and probably end this discussion here today, I think women today have also understood their own capabilities, and they are ready and willing to take this world on. And I think that is very important, which was not the case earlier. And thanks to all the men who are with those women and have been their allies, support whichever way, and vice versa. Women have always been support and allies of men, and I think that's how the world should be. Thank you everyone on this panel. Thank you Shefali, thank you Janvi, thank you Devjit, and thank you my great co-host Revathi.
So thank you once again to the panelists who joined us for a wonderful, engaging conversation, and for being so candid and open with your thoughts. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.